Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome into the show. Another fantastic conversation for you headed up here today. And we appreciate everyone that's finding us. A lot of great comments here lately. We really appreciate it. We've been around a while, but we're coming up on the 1 year mark of doing this on a daily basis. So we appreciate your time. Once again, very quick, go to YouTube. Be sure to give us subscribe. Sports IQ LS. For Sports IQ with Larry Smith. Glad you're here with us. Great guest today. In a couple of minutes, we'll talk with Shane Shoemaker of Heavy.com about the NFL. When the Super Bowl is now here, we'll also recap the conference championships as well. Great conversation there. Always good to have Shane on the show. And then coming up in just a bit, we mentioned yesterday, ACC basketball is kind of the theme this week, just the kind of the way it worked out. The calendar worked. And so we've got Zach Carey joining us. We talked to him yesterday, covering Virginia basketball. And I'm going to wait for a moment for you to hear. He has a very unique website, streakingthelawn.com. He's going to explain what that's about. He does assure us that you can go to streakingthelawn.com and not be in trouble, not have to give any kind of age verification before you get in there. It's a clean, G-rated site. So, I mean, we're going to make sure of that. Anyway, that's coming up. We'll talk Virginia basketball. Let's get to some headlines for today. And according to a story on ESPN, Bill Belichick is not among the names called when the Pro Football announces the class of 2026. The voting took place earlier this month, and Belichick falling short of the 40 out of 50 votes needed for induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame during his first year of eligibility. This is what four sources with firsthand knowledge of the outcome told ESPN. Belichick receiving a call from a Hall representative on Friday with the news that he will not be inducted in Canton, Ohio this summer. It's kind of amazing, and the backlash has really been what you'd expect. Belichick won 6 Super Bowls as the head coach in New England. He won 2 more as defensive coordinator with the New York Giants under Bill Parcells. So kind of a surprise. Will he get there eventually? Yeah, probably. But boy, you have 8 rings, you're not in. That's surprising. Speaking of NFL coaches, the Bills have found their man after giving Sean McDermott the heave-ho. Offensive coordinator Joe Brady, who helped Joe Burrow win a Heisman at LSU, he'll move up to the top job for the Bills. They also announced they've come to an agreement with Denver secondary coach and former Wisconsin Badger Jim Leonhard to become the Bills' new defensive coordinator, and he is good at what he does. Brady, of course, was on McDermott's staff for 4 years, quarterbacks coach back in 2022, and he was the offensive coordinator the last 3 years. He's only 36 years old, so again, youth served there in Buffalo, and he was there formerly in New Orleans during the time under Sean Payton, as well as an offensive assistant during the Peyton Drew Brees years. And he's got a stellar quarterback with Josh Allen, so who is a running quarterback, can use his legs. So we'll see kind of how he can take that knowledge and will it transfer over? We will see. Again, he's been the OC the past 3 years. Speaking of Sean Payton, the Broncos were not done with changes to their coaching staff as they let offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi go after head coach Payton said the offense didn't do enough to get them to the big dance, losing in the AFC title game to New England, again, without their starting quarterback, Bo Nix, who was injured. One name that Denver will not be able to pick up is for their offensive coordinator moving forward is Brian Daboll. Reports out of Tennessee indicate the Titans will make the former Giants head coach their new offensive coordinator. So that leaves 3 teams. The Browns, Raiders, and Cardinals continue to wander through the coaching deserts aimlessly. Folks, it's almost February. Let's get to stepping. Some other football news, by the way, and this is one, we'll talk a bit more about this later on here in the show after we talk with our guests. Duke and the University of Miami have come to some kind of agreement that'll allow Blue Devils quarterback Darren Mensah to become the Hurricanes' new signal caller. Mensah will join the Hurricanes after leading the ACC with almost 4,000 passing yards and 34 passing touchdowns this season, and also leading the Blue Devils to their first outright ACC title since 1962. This was an issue that he had signed basically a 2-year NIL package worth $8 million, but then right at the end of the transfer window decided he wanted to transfer. It was a big mess. There was legal stuff happening, and they've cleared all that up. By the way, the Hurricanes also bringing over Mensah's favorite target, the wideout Cooper Barkay, who hauled in 7 touchdown tosses from Mensah. in 2025. Let's talk more Super Bowl 60 coming up here. Patriots and Seahawks, a rematch of a game a few years ago. And here we go. Welcome back to the show. Shane Shoemaker joining us once again, heavy.com, to talk about this. Hey, let's, while we have a chance, let's talk first about these two games this weekend that were both in very different ways thrilling games. If you had to have a semifinal round, this was the way they have it. No blowouts. Both went right down at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was, again, like you said, they were very just two different games. I mean, you watched that first one in the AFC. First of all, my wife and I left at halftime, and we came back, and all of a sudden it was completely snowed in for that game. So, I had to go take my kid out to get something to eat, and I was like, "Wait, what happened?" Like, the field was completely clear. So, and also that also impacted the game. Broncos have a backup quarterback and Stidham, and you always worried about that going to that game. I mean, like, it's not Bo Nix. You have the guy who had led them all season long. With that defense, and could the defense manage to stop the Patriots? And obviously they didn't stop Drake May on that naked bootleg there at the end, and just that sealed the deal. So, yeah, I mean, I worry about the Patriots going forward a little bit, but it just almost seemed like it was, oh, here the Patriots are again. They're back in it, of course. So, but yeah, very, very different game. And then in the second one there, the Seahawks, that's the game I think we all were hoping for. We'd seen these two teams go at it all year long, and then at the end there, the Seahawks, they beat them 2 in a row, in very thrilling fashions in both games. And man, can you say anything more about Sam Darnold? Man, that guy has just completely stripped any narrative that came with him over the years. I mean, and did it in a non-Sam Darnold way and had a perfect game.
Right.
I think he had one fumble, but it was recovered. But he had no picks. I mean, I've read a bunch of articles, and everyone was saying like Sam Darnold needed to be perfect, and he was. That's exactly what he was. I mean, he made no mistakes and made some big time throws. And then what can you say about Jackson Smith and Jigba? That dude is a monster. I mean, I watch a lot of college ball, and even I don't know if he got enough credit at Ohio State, because there was always someone else. I mean, Larry, like the receiver room there is always stacked, but someone's going to get above the other. And, it was Marvin Harrison Jr., I believe, before him and all that. So, and now that dude has just become one of the best wide receivers in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's they, to your point, they have so much talent there that you tend to overlook some guys, but he came on big. A franchise record, I think, 10 catches, 153 yards, touchdown. And Darnold, like you said, we've talking before that look, Drake May is a second-year guy, and we've seen these players. Bo Nix, Caleb Williams have taken their teams in the playoffs this year. The new era of quarterbacks coming in. But something we said for Darnold, like you said, to stay at it. We've talked before the big come through, the breakthrough year last year in Minnesota, couldn't get him there. But to get to a Super Bowl here at age 28, it says something for don't give up on these guys too soon. It's a complex position that really takes years to master, and it's rare for a player like Peyton Manning's first year wasn't much. Retired as one of the all-time greats, right? I mean, so I agree with you. It's what a great testament for him and the Seahawks franchise to put the right pieces together and be back in the title game.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you saw this too, Larry, but out of all the USC quarterbacks in history, he's the first one to ever make it to a Super Bowl, start a Super Bowl, which is an absolutely wild stat. I mean, you think of all the great USC quarterbacks that have come through over that time, and it's Sam Darnold, again, which adds to his new narrative that he's writing for himself. So, I mean, again, I go back to even last year in the offseason when the Vikings were trying to figure out a way to possibly bring him back in. They're like, no, we're going to go with the second year guy, JJ McCarthy, who had not been proven anything yet, which again, you don't want to write him off either now that you look at Darnold's story. So, but I mean, the Vikings really seemed like they were a quarterback away from, again, going to the Super Bowl. They had tons of talent, both offensive and defensive. And, the Seahawks are now on the other side going to the Super Bowl. So, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the matchup. I think it's going to be pretty good. I mean, I also think it could be, again, I mean, to talk about the defenses in these, the championship games and really leading up to the playoffs. I mean, it's been a defensive heavy playoffs. Seahawks, I mean, again, we've seen the dudes they got. And then, man, I think the Patriots, in the playoffs. I think they're maybe allowing like 8.6 points per game or something crazy like that. So I mean, again, you got to add in the snow and the backup quarterback stuff to that and the AFC Championship, but it could be a low scoring game.
Yeah, it really could. And when you think about this NFC West right now, the teams, so many different teams coming out of the NFC. It was the Eagles, of course, last year won it all, but this now the third team in recent years out of the West. The Rams won it 5 years ago. Niners were in it recently. Now the Seahawks there. Suddenly, it's a division right now that maybe the most competitive division in football when you talk about the teams that have had success in recent years.
Absolutely. I mean, again, you almost wonder now every year, like what team's going to come out of that division. And I don't really know if anyone was saying it was going to be the Seahawks this year at all. I mean, first of all, credit to Shanahan and the 49ers. They always seem to overcome these injuries after injury after injury. And, I have to admit, I thought they might make it, because, again, you're still riding off Darnold. You're not believing this is the guy that can get to the promised land, and then, of course, no one's really saying anything about the Cardinals yet, but they still have a long ways to probably go. They've got they got to figure out the quarterback situation, and they're still looking for a head coach at this point. So,
right.
Which I've heard Raheem Morris maybe a potential candidate for that. So, but yeah, an excellent division, always fun to watch. I mean, they always go after one another, and of course the Rams. The Rams. I felt like I think we talked, last time we talked, they were playing with fire all throughout the playoffs, really towards the end of the season. And, even for a little bit there in that game last night, I thought they may be making a little bit of a comeback in the third quarter. The third quarter, I think they exchanged touchdown for touchdown right there. So they had a chance, but they just couldn't overcome it.
How about the one play too, the special teams, the muffed punt by the player? He just tripped, and it was one of those accidental things. But that score turned out to be the difference in this game.
Well, that was the story for the Rams all year. I mean, I believe McVay fired his special teams coordinator late in the season there. I mean, special teams has been an issue for them all season long, and it came back to bite them yet again. If that play doesn't happen, you kind of wonder, did the Seahawks win that game? Because they're in the third quarter, man. The Rams were answering. They were hitting. I think it was after that punt, if I'm not mistaken, Larry, that the Rams came right back down and scored within like a few plays. I mean, Brad Stafford was just launched them downfield, and then boom, they're right back in it. So, they might not win that game if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, you're right. So the game's come up here in a week from Sunday in San Francisco. Patriots and Seahawks, 2025 season overall. What is your take when you look back? I mean, I think that it was one that showed the NFL as always, for the past 30 years, really has made an effort toward parity in terms of the salary cap and some of the rules and things. And I think that came to pass now. One thing that we saw, and we might have discussed last time you were on, is in terms of how you maneuver. You can only maneuver for so long at the top of the food chain when you're paying out $50 million plus to one guy to be quarterback. And we saw that this year where it finally caught up to the Chiefs. I mean, last year in the playoffs, they were finally exposed in the Super Bowl after just getting the ball bounced the right way every single time. But you go through and look at this. I mean, Drake May obviously in a rookie contract and Sam Darnold in a discounted contract. So something to be said for a team that doesn't have a ton of money locked up in one position, and we'll see how this operates moving forward.
Yeah, well, the other thing too, again, like you're saying, this is what the NFL wants. They don't want this. They really don't want dynasties. They're really not trying to build for that.
Yeah.
So if you look at these, I think I saw the stat the other day was, I think the Patriots and Seahawks both, they entered this season or last for like the most cap space. I mean, the Patriots had a massive amount of money to work with. So they completely just rebuilt their team, through the salary cap, all the money they had left over. So again, look where it's got them, in just 2 years, from their new head coaches and the salary cap, it's now looks like to be possibly a little bit of a new era of the NFL. I mean, again, where does Mahomes go from here? There's no more Brady's now. A lot of these guys are retiring. So what is the new age of what's the new quarterbacks like? Is Drake May going to be that guy? Again, we don't know enough about him yet. And we know Darnold, at least we think we did. Now we're seeing the other side of him. So, I just want to see where this goes from here. I mean, again, it just proves year to year, you do not know who are going to be the best teams. You just don't. I mean, we thought the Chiefs were never going to be beat, and then they got old and hurt. So they just couldn't overcome it. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the fun part, like you said, that we've got, to see Chicago in there, the team that
Mhm.
had only one double-digit, season in the past 12 years, to get a win at home, and to see Caleb Williams mature and this team under a first-year coach there. Buffalo decided to make a change at coach because they keep getting to the playoffs, not to the promised land. Josh Allen, soon to be 30, soon to be a daddy. He's getting long in the tooth, but it's time you only have a small window for these guys.
Right.
Can Philly rebuild? What does Tampa do with Baker Mayfield? I mean, Atlanta's got a new head coach. That's something too. With 10 head coaches coming in, almost a third of the league is revamping, not including your personnel. So it
Mhm.
looks to be a very different 2026 by the time we get around to next fall.
Yeah, I'm really interested. And I think you said we may talk about these all these head coaching hires coming up. So it's again, like you said, I believe you said 10 head coaches, new head coaches in the
Yeah.
league. Is that right? So I
Yeah.
mean, how does that not completely just turn upside down the league again? I mean, all these new coaches going elsewhere, and of course, one of the more random coaches that I thought was going to get one of the OC jobs was Arthur Smith. He went to the Ohio State. So I mean,
Yeah.
you never know where these coaches are going to end up, and I just want to see again how this is going to play out, how it's going to mess with these divisions. I mean, again, we talked about the NFC West, but the NFC North, I think, is just as exciting. Again, like you said, with Ben Johnson coming in, and how's he going to do another year? So it's it looks promising even more in 2027, in my opinion.
Yeah, all four of those teams really competitive. Again, we saw what Minnesota and Detroit did last year,
Yeah.
Green Bay and Chicago this year. Let's get into some of those vacancies. There's some still out there. Is there any coaching selection that surprised you so far?
Well, I know the one that everyone wants to talk about is McCarthy to the Steelers. That's I think that's the most surprising, but to me, it's really not. I mean, I know. First of all, I think we got to get rid of this whole narrative. I see this all. I saw this all the time with LSU. The last three head coaches all won a national championship, so the next guy has to do that. Times change, eras change. Same thing with the Steelers. We've seen that, they've had three coaches since 1969, something like that. And then, so it's like, hey, this next guy, he's got to be mid-30s, defensive guy, young, up and coming. No one's really heard of him. That's what he's got to be. Well, that didn't happen. They went with McCarthy, who is, I think, 62, offensive guy. And, again, this is an offensive league now, and the Steelers have always been known for their defense. But McCarthy, here's one thing that really surprised me. We're talking about McCarthy and his age and his quote unquote lack of success. If you look at the numbers, he's very similar to John Harbaugh, who everyone raved about going to the Giants. So, I mean, again, very similar in wins. They both, each got a Super Bowl, which I think they were like 2 years apart on that. So, like, how are we not talking about that one enough? I think McCarthy is an okay hire. I would probably give it around like a B minus. But he may be a bridge guy too, because this team really they need a quarterback. But how do you get a quarterback? You got to do it through the draft usually. So, and they've always been that, Tomlin's always been winning games all, for 19 years or whatever it's been. So you're not going to be at the top of the draft. So they may have to lose some games or have a couple losing seasons to do that.
Yeah, figure something out. Yeah, we've talked about that with Ben Roethlisberger since he retired. Four different guys in there, none have gotten the job done. Steelers with that, you're exactly right. And to McCarthy, maybe his reputation soiled a bit because of the years in Dallas. Which, let's face it, the past 25 years, nobody wins in Dallas. So I mean, but he's got to get rub that smell off him, and maybe he can do that at Three Rivers. Listen, Shane, always good to talk with you. Do you have an early pick for the winner for the Super Bowl?
As of right now, I'm probably going Seahawks. I just think, again, love what Darnold's doing. I do worry about, him facing that defense. That defense is tough. They've proven it all year that they can, they can mess with the quarterback. They can get after you. And I just think, I feel like the Patriots were like a year away, really. Like, I didn't think this would be the year they would go. I felt like, another draft, another off season of free agency. that might be the year to do it. I do think it'll be close. I do think it'll be low scoring. I don't know if we're going to get a perfect Darnold in the Super Bowl. I think there may be, some typical Darnold mistakes in that, but I do think they can probably pull it out in the end.
Yeah, I think so right now. That defense is outstanding. They play so well. Hey, Shane, good to talk with you. Man, stay warm in this frigid weather here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, Larry. Thank you.
All right, thanks, buddy. Shane Shoemaker joining us once again from Heavy.com, talking a little NFL as we get ready for Super Bowl 60. Countdown is here to San Francisco, Patriots and the Seahawks. More to come here on the Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
There's nothing more fun than going boating with friends.
We were all out having a good time when all of a sudden, my best friend's hat flew off, and without thinking, he jumped in the water to retrieve it. When we turned the boat around, he seemed to be struggling to keep his head above the water. We all started yelling, "Pull the cord! Pull the cord!"
I pulled the cord and my life was saved. I was wearing a belt-type inflatable life jacket. The wisest decision I ever made.
Life jackets worn, nobody mourns. Learn more at pleasewearit.com.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Go to college basketball now. On the courts last night, Nebraska looking to remain perfect, one of only 3 unbeaten teams entering the week in Division I basketball. Highest ranking ever on Monday when they hit number 5 in the AP poll at number 3 Michigan. The Wolverines just the one loss to Wisconsin earlier in the Big Ten season. They put up 50 points, Nebraska did, on the Maize and Blue. 50-48 at halftime, but the Wolverines bouncing back in the second half. Finally, 107 left on the clock. Freshman Trey McKinney making the tiebreaker to give the home team their first lead of the game. They hold on for a 75-72 win. So the Cornhuskers suffer their first loss of the season. Tough loss. It's a tough stretch for them. They lose at number 3 Michigan. They've got 9th-ranked Illinois coming in Sunday. And then the week after, they face number 12 Purdue. Now, speaking of Purdue, meanwhile, Lamar Wilkerson of Indiana, 19 points. Nick Dorn added 18. Connor Enright scored 5 of his 8 points in the final 71 seconds as Indiana holds off the 12th-ranked Boilermakers, 72-67 in Bloomington. All of a sudden, Purdue has lost 3 in a row, and they'll try to right the ship at Sunday at Maryland. They did this last year. They lost 4 games in a row in February, and so we'll see what Matt Painter can draw up to kind of get them the preseason number 1 back on the right track. At one point yesterday, Notre Dame led number 17 Virginia 39-20, looking like they would get their biggest win of the season, but not so much. The DeRitter kids scored a career-high 32 points as number 17 Cavaliers matched the biggest comeback in school history. They rallied for a 100-97 double overtime win over the Irish. And again, we just talked with Zach Carey again about Virginia. We're going to talk about him, talk to him here coming up about this Cavaliers team. Some other winners. Michigan State was down 9 at halftime at Rutgers, but rallied to get the win in overtime. So they now are in a first place tie in the Big Ten with Michigan and Nebraska. Also, number 2, UConn, close game, but they managed to get past Providence at home. Number 18, Vanderbilt, just ran past Kentucky 80-55. And so Kentucky has played in Nashville twice this season against 2 ranked teams, Gonzaga and Vandy. Combined, those losses by 60 points. Things are not good in Lexington right now. By the way, we talked with Miami of Ohio and their associate head coach, Jonathan Holmes, yesterday. Well, the Redhawks went out, and boy, they had to really battle to beat Massachusetts, but they finally do. Number 24 team in the country, improving to 21-0. Also, 21st ranked St. Louis had a struggle in the Atlantic 10 over GW, but finally got past, and so they get the win as well once they are now in the rankings in the AP. NBA news, the top headline, Kawhi Leonard, 21 points. James Harden, 16 points, 10 assists. The Clippers beating Utah 115-103. That's their 9th win in 10 games. Hey, the Clippers have had the best record in the NBA since Christmas. They've won 16 of their last 19 games immediately after they went 3-16 in their previous 19 games. But look out, the Clippers maybe figure things out there at the Intuit Dome there in LA. All right, back to more college basketball. We'll talk Virginia with Zach Carey and from Streaking the Lawn. We'll explain next.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt. That's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. 800-507-7293. That's 800-507-7293.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
We promised earlier this week we're going to talk a lot of ACC basketball here this week. One of the teams we want to get to is Virginia right now. Really kind of, it was a shock to the system, and deservedly a couple of years ago when Tony Bennett just said, I can't do this, and walked away right before the season. Hey, listen, the Cavs have rebounded 17th in this week's AP poll, and so joining us now is Zach Carey with streakingthelawn.com. Zach, first, hello. Glad things are well in Charlottesville. Got to ask, because you always get asked a lot. Your website is streakingthelawn.com.
Yeah.
For the start, because I'm a journalist, I know somewhere's asking, what are they talking about? What is streakingthelawn.com?
Yeah, so Streaking the Lawn, it's the SB Nation affiliate for the University of Virginia Sports. The name Streaking the Lawn comes from a long-standing tradition at the University of Virginia. The lawn is essentially the quad. It's where the rotunda is and where Thomas Jefferson originally sort of built the university. Long story short, I don't know how long the tradition has been going, but the tradition before you graduate UVA is that you have to streak the lawn. And so my former boss and the founder of our beloved website decided to name it Streaking the Lawn. And so that has resulted in many embarrassing conversations in front of head coaches in my time covering Virginia sports, but wouldn't trade it.
I think if you dig deep enough, you'll find that Tommy himself probably started the tradition. Things I'm reading about him. So
very possible.
It's possible. Just Tommy, sorry. I'm trying to give you your props. Anyway, I digress. Okay, Virginia basketball right now. Tell us about the Cavaliers. What's been the secret to their success this year?
Yeah, it's really fascinating what Ryan Odom has done in such a short period of time. He came in last year, and for those who don't know, he has a lot of Virginia connections. His dad, Dave Odom, was an assistant coach on Terry Holland's staff back in the 80s. Ryan Odom grew up in Charlottesville. Obviously, he has coached around the Commonwealth, VCU, Virginia Tech, UMBC, of course, a little bit to the north. And so he comes in and really sort of revamps this program in a lot of ways. Immediately they start spending in the transfer portal. They start paying players to come from Europe with Testa Ritter and Johan Grunlow. And so he really assembles this talent that is built around his philosophy on offense of shooting a lot of threes, and trying to get dunks around the rim, and then defensively to block shots. And so, what we've seen for Virginia really especially over the last month, is that their defense has gotten a lot better. They have 2 elite shot blocking centers, and they have a lot of guys who can shoot the ball. And so they are experienced. Obviously the key has been meshing these 11 new players together, but he's done it well. And, they just lost to North Carolina on Saturday. That was a bit of a step back for them, but writ large, it's been a really successful first season for Ryan Odom.
Yeah, and that's the thing that for me, I don't want to say I've written off Virginia. That's not fair, but they're a team that had fallen off my radar. I think that's a fair way to put it, right? I think for most of us watching around the country. When I first began to take notice again was when you guys beat Texas back in early December. And some nice wins, beat a Maryland team that we now know is not the Maryland that they have been first year with Butch Williams. But I looked up all of a sudden, really probably then when the win at Louisville, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. I keep seeing Virginia popping up winning. Let's take a look now and see what's going on there. And it's exciting. I go way back. Look, I am far older than you by generations. I'm ancient. I go back to Terry Holland and Ralph Sampson and those, back in the old ACC, and Tobacco Road, all that stuff. But I think it's exciting to see what's happened so quickly. What was the game for you when you said, okay, this is the win that, maybe they have something and they've turned the corner sooner than we thought they might?
Yeah, I think it was that Texas game. I mean, it was really sort of a perfect storm for them to be able to go on the road in the SEC ACC Challenge and put up 88, beat a decent Texas team by 19 points. And really, it's sort of the way that they've done this. Like they've built this roster to be deep, and maybe they're not the deepest team in college basketball. They have some guys who can be sort of sore spots defensively at times, but they have so many guys who can step up and score the basketball. And you sort of saw that in that game. They shot 50% from 3, 12 for 24, and they really defended well. Texas doesn't have maybe that elite or sort of those elite scoring guards in the backcourt that can sometimes give Virginia trouble because they don't have elite perimeter defenders. But you just saw them defend against a quality basketball team and then be able to shoot the lights out on the other end. And so that was the game where it sort of started to look like, okay, maybe this could be something special. And we've really seen them sort of flip a switch since then in ACC play.
And it's funny too, that getting these wins over some other first-year coaches, that those hires got a lot more hype. I mean, Sean Miller was talked about. Xavier beats Texas in the NCAA, and the next week he takes the Texas job. Literally a week later, we talked about Buzz Williams again coming in. Staying one step ahead of the Cavalry. That's just what Buzz does. So now he's in the Big Ten with Maryland, leaving Texas A&M. Ryan, what do you think Ryan Odom is doing? You mentioned UMBC, and for those who don't recall, he was the coach of the 16th seed UMBC team that beat Virginia. Back in the 2018, I think it was, the tournaments, and put UMBC on the map as the first 16 seed to knock off a 1 seed in that 1/16 matchup. It had never happened before. And ironically, now here he is coaching Virginia. You mentioned in terms of spending money, whatever, but in terms of his philosophy, what's the difference here with him? Again, the great pedigree. We all remember his dad and the great career that he had. What do you think he brings philosophically to this team that we didn't have before?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an emphasis on 3-point shooting. We've seen obviously analytics take over sports and basketball, especially over the last decade. And he's really bought into that. Virginia is taking, 46% of their shots are threes. That's the 40th highest rate in the country. They're making a good number of threes. They have a number of guys shooting in the high 30s. They're 36% on the season as a team. They're also crashing the glass. Their rebounding rate, their offensive rebounding rate is third in the country at 40%. And so they're getting a lot of extra possessions there. They're running more than Tony Bennett's teams did. They're not, they're not North Carolina or Alabama for that matter. They're not getting up and down all the time, but they're pushing in transition a little bit more. And, it's interesting. I asked Ryan Odom at his introductory press conference back in, I guess it was April, sort of what he based his basketball philosophy around, like sort of what is his leading philosophy, what's going to guide his scheme. And he really emphasized that it was about the players that he brought in, and yes, he wants to sort of bring in players who fit what he wants to do, but he also wants to build a scheme around the players. And that's really what he's done here. They don't have elite on-ball defenders on the perimeters, but they have shot blockers. And so they sort of guide opponents into the paint where the shot blockers can clean things up. And so, yeah, it's been about 3-point shooting. It's about having a few playmakers who can sort of go get you a bucket, and then defensively really relying on those shot blockers.
You're looking at the ACC overall, and obviously, Duke is a team that everyone's, looking at. But you guys right now sitting, right there in the mix as well. How has this conference improved over the last couple of years, where it's been kind of Duke and everybody else?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's been a matter of getting, I think, some fresh blood with coaches into the league. Obviously, the ACC is known for having so many all-time coaches over the numerous decades of ACC basketball now. But at the same time, you're sort of seeing some coaches like Ryan Odom embrace this new era of college basketball. I think there's been a talent influx. I also think that ACC teams, as a number of teams have, but maybe more than other conferences, have embraced bringing in European players over. We've seen that with Testa Ritter and Johan Grunlow on Virginia. Of course, a handful of other teams have done that as well. And so, you've seen a talent influx. You've seen sort of new coaches bringing new energy. I think it's a question of how long does this stick? We know that Duke will be a top 10 team just about year in, year out. That's just their brand. And then it's the question of, can North Carolina continue to be up there? Can Virginia be up there? Can you get a Clemson, a Miami, an NC State, a Syracuse, a Louisville sort of up into that realm? And so, of course, what Pat Kelsey did at Louisville, they're struggling a bit this year. But you've seen enough coaches come in, bring new energy. And I think that it's paying off for the ACC. And ideally, for Virginia and the rest of the conference, they'll get 7 or 8 teams into the NCAA tournament this year.
Think they'll go that deep? Will they go 7 or 8 this year?
I think that was maybe some non-conference projections. I think it's possible. It's of course not guaranteed. That is a high number, and sort of things have to fall the right way. But if you start to sort of look at how many teams are ranked highly in the net, I think it's within the realm of possibility.
Okay. I was going through quickly. I haven't done my deep dive yet this year. I've got 3 in the top 20 and look and see kind of later on. I think that's the one thing that hurts. And that's a good thing. If you have that many high in the net, is a better chance to get those resume wins. We've talked about Duke in the past couple of years has almost been sort of like Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference, in that you don't get those marquee wins. One, you've got the larger conference, so it's even more unbalanced. And so it's harder to play those other strong teams. And if you do, you may get only one crack at them. And so, yeah, that's good to think that it's a much deeper conference than maybe the perception is of those of us watching from the outside.
Yeah, there are 8 teams in the top 40 of the net. There are a couple more sort of in the mid 50s as well. And so, yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's about avoiding losses to the sort of bad teams, one being Florida State, maybe Pitt, Georgia Tech. There are a couple that you can't afford to drop one to, or else that will be a bad loss. But there are enough. We saw what North Carolina did on Saturday. They'd lost 3 of 5 games. They really needed to pick me up. They go on the road. They get a quad 1 win against a talented Virginia team, and that's not going to hurt UVA necessarily. And so you're sort of starting to see that quality come back into the ACC.
Yeah. What's one ACC team that you think is kind of operating under the radar that could possibly make some noise in March?
That's a good question. I mean, I think maybe not under the radar coming into the year, but just with how they've struggled of late. They've lost 4 of 7. That's Louisville. It's a question of when can they get Michael Brown back. Of course, he is sort of an X factor for them. And so I think that. Well, I guess no. He just recently came back. Excuse me. But if they can start to mesh, if they can sort of get into a range where they have the talent, and Pat Kelsey is such a good basketball coach. I mean, they just got blown out by Duke on Monday night, but I still think that the talent is there. Sure. I'm sort of taking a closer look at my take as I'm scrolling through their results, and maybe I need to pull it back, but I still believe in Louisville. If they can just build up enough of that resume, I think the talent is there.
Well, they've got a big chance to kind of rebound this week against SMU. It's one of those top 50 teams in the net that you talked about. And that quality win. To your point, it's exciting to see all these younger coaches coming into to the ACC, and you need that, like you said, when you can't. And we've discussed on the show before, you can't lose a Bennett, a Boeheim, a Krzyzewski, sure, a Williams, all at once, and not expect a Leonard Hamilton at Florida State. Looking how he struggled since he, maybe one of the most overlooked coaches from the outside. I know the coach fraternity respects what Leonard always did, and certainly we did too. But you can't lose that type of coaching talent and the wins and the Final Fours and the championships and the experience, et cetera, all of that, and not expect some kind of blowback, some kind of effect. And we're seeing that right now in the ACC. But it's exciting to see these young coaches come in and begin to fill that void.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there was sort of a period there, and Tony Bennett admitted it in his retirement press conference that he just didn't feel like he was the person to lead this program forward. I think, Virginia fans would have been happy for him to stick around, of course. But it is a new era of college sports and of college basketball. And I think that, obviously those great coaches that have retired in the last couple of years did so many incredible things for their respective programs and the ACC as a whole. But you're also seeing sort of this ability for teams to rebuild quickly under new coaches, just with how college basketball is built now. I think the question is the longevity. Can they do it for 10, 15 years? Can they do it year in, year out? That's a question in the transfer portal era.
Yeah, and the way the game has changed. Jim Larinaga is another one at Miami.
Of course.
Ray at Notre Dame as well. Another couple of names again. That's Larinaga, two different teams to the Final Four. George Mason in 06 was, put his name on the map. So you're exactly right. Well, listen, Virginia, it's exciting to see what they've done so far, sitting right now third in the ACC. Again, ranked in the top 20. What a job Coach Odom has done. Hey, listen, okay, so don't go streaking the lawn. And streaking the lawn, is it a thing you do like at 3 a.m.? So like
that's the trend
kind of thing. Okay. And then I'm going to hate to ask this question, but I know somebody somewhere is curious. Do you go, I don't know, post a selfie afterwards that you streak how do you know you streak the lawn, that you passed the test?
It's pretty, for as much as out on the internet in this day and age, I have not seen much evidence.
Good.
I'll put it that way. I have not seen much evidence, fortunately.
Good. Okay. Inquiring minds want to know. So listen, keep that in the dark of night in Charlottesville, and keep the website going. Great work as always, and great to talk with you. Hopefully, again, you'll spend some time with us as we get closer to March.
Of course, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Zach, thanks so much. Good to talk to you. Zach Carey, love his sense of humor. He's okay with me joking about it, and he appreciates it. He's with streakingthelawn.com, covering Virginia sports and the Cavaliers right now, having a great basketball season under first-year coach Ryan Odom. Okay, we've got more to come. Stay with us. It's the Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Fans of big sports radio and sports spectacular podcasts have a new home on the Chief Sports Network. Find your favorite programs and content all in one place by downloading the Chief Sports app in your mobile device. Created in South Carolina, the Chief Sports Network is the home of an expanding network of live and podcast format programming. It is also the home of one of the leading national college football podcasts, JC and Morgan, hosted by ESPN's Mike Morgan and 24/7 Sports' JC Sherbert. Download the Chief Sports app for free and find all of your favorite programming under one easy umbrella. Thanks to all of our markets for your loyal support of Big Sports Radio and our Sports Spectacular podcast, and we look forward to connecting with you anywhere in the world on the Chief Sports app.
Welcome back here to the show. Producer Tony, we're just talking in the break here about Nebraska basketball. They fall from the ranks of the unbeaten, but boy, what a contest. You were saying you were really impressed just the way they battled just a taller and possibly more talented Michigan team.
Yeah, they never let up. They were working hard all night. They moved the ball really well. I love their offensive flow. They find people open. They were able to drive into the paint, to kick it out for some threes. That worked early. Later on, they were dishing it into the paint and hitting some layups. Just good cuts, real crisp, real clean. And they battled inside. They didn't let Michigan take over the game underneath. Yeah, Morez Johnson had a big game. The big 7-3 guy, Bona, had a big game. Mara had a big game in the middle. But they were always battling. They were always making them work. There was always a body on a body. They were contesting every rebound. They contested every shot. It seemed to me like they just ran out of gas there at the end. They couldn't hit a three. In the last 3 minutes, a couple of them just rimmed out. If they'd have hit a couple of those, it might have been a different story there for the Huskers. But really competed hard, really worked hard. And, this is going to be a tough out to come March, this team.
Yeah, their schedule is favorable. We talked about, again, they've got Illinois and Purdue coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Two more, again, one team right now in the top 10, one that was a preseason number one that still is right there in the rankings and is a very solid team. But I think that if anyone didn't think Nebraska belonged, if you watch that and hadn't been paying attention, they do belong. They're very skilled. I think Fred Hoiberg runs some great sets, to your point, and they're a veteran team that's been around, and I think they'll be a team that can finally break through. I believe we've said that the only power conference team that has never won an NCAA tournament game. I think that changes this year with what they've put together out there. Speaking of things that you don't expect, the situation with the Duke quarterback, Darren Mensis. So now he is confirmed on social media. Yes, I'm transferring to Miami. But boy, this is just another sticky situation that you feel could have been avoided if we had years ago sat down, NCAA looking at you, and put some guardrails in place and some rules in place. That you've got a kid now that has signed a 2-year deal, NIL deal, that clearly meant nothing with Duke, and now he's going to go to an ACC competitor in Miami.
Yeah, and supposedly they worked it out with Miami to make it happen. Nowhere in the stories I was reading did they say what that meant. What did they get something? Did they get future considerations from Miami? Is Miami going to give them a future transfer? I mean, to me, it all just it really stinks of tampering. It really stinks of, are we going to be trading players in the future? Because not only now is Mensah going, but Mensah's favorite target, who had over 1,100 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns, he's going to Miami as well. So again, it's the case in that instance of the rich getting richer down there, and it's all legal because it's all, but there's no, like you said, there's no guardrails. Nobody has taken control of how this portal should work, how it needs to happen. It's the wild, wild west. Whoever has the bigger bag is going to potentially have the best team.
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to see later on where, Penn State loses their 3 in a row? If that happens in the future, will we see where Penn State goes, okay, I got some seniors here. They're up for grabs. Who wants them? Who's willing to trade me who's got some freshmen that's sitting out there? We're going to need to rebuild here. We're going to trade our defensive end to Oklahoma for a future, running back that the freshman running back that they can't find playing time for. He's coming. I mean, is that what starts happening to these kids? Do they not get a say in that? Does that lead to a whole nother ball of wax that might open up with the NCAA? It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, and you take that with the situation at Clemson. And by the way, we'll talk to Chapel Fowler of the state newspaper later this week on the show about the Clemson situation and the tampering of Ole Miss, of the Clemson player, alleged tampering by Ole Miss of the Clemson linebacker who had already started class. So if you've got that, to your point, you and I were joking, talking about this thing. Well, is it going to be a thing where, it's mid-season, but listen, just we'll set you up with some classes that are similar curriculum, and we'll make it count. I mean, and it's, to your point, one of those that if a team is tanking and they're struggling at 3-6 and going nowhere, and then somebody else comes in, hey, listen, give me that star defensive end. We need him, and we got a third-string running back who's not going to play much. He's already agreed to come join you in the portal. Is that okay? A handshake agreement? Great. Okay. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but Tony, this is ridiculous. I agree with you. Where does it end?
Yeah, everything we're seeing is ridiculous. It was totally unheard of 10 or 11 years ago. Schools coming to agreement to allow a kid to transfers happening last minute, tampering in the portal, who's going in, who's not in, who's coming out. I mean, I'm telling you, literally, it is the wild, wild west in college football. And there just has to be some guardrails. I mean, you can't imagine a pro league running like this. Can you imagine if the Broncos before the AFC Championship game went, geez, our backup, Jarrett Stidham, he's not going to get it done. Where can I go? Okay, Steelers, you were just eliminated. We'll offer you a 5th and a 6th for Aaron Rodgers on a 1-game basis, and Aaron Rodgers comes over, from Pittsburgh to Denver to take on New England. What?
Yeah. And here's the other piece of this, and I know we got to go. There's, by the way, Duke put out a long statement you can read online. I saw it on ESPN.com. The other piece of this is the NIL deals, because of the way all this is structured, ties you to the NIL to those businesses or those entities, maybe not necessarily to Duke. And so it may be a thing where the agreement is still in place. It appears that agreement is still in place. It expires December 31st of this year, but maybe you transfer that name, image, likeness to Miami's cabal of doing, and I don't know. But to your point, because all these things are done not in the open, nobody really truly knows the value of these deals or who's funding them or if it truly is compensated dollar for, the real dollars, which I can't believe, but somehow they make that work. There's a lot here, like you said. So Mensah to Miami, his top receiver Barkay to Miami, and Duke, you won your first ACC title since 1962. Good luck. All right. Our moment of all is next.
How would you like to get high-speed internet for your home for less than $2 a day? That's right. For about $50 a month, you'll get lightning fast internet. Are you paying less than $50 a month right now for your internet? Then call Whole Home Connect right now for blazing fast internet at $50 a month with no price increases, no hidden fees, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees. It's a great deal. And guess what? You can try it for 15 days. If you don't like it, you get your money back. But you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love the price. Internet for your home for $50 a month. That's less than $2 a day. Plus, no contracts, no upfront costs, no equipment fees, and our 15-day guarantee. Call now. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. 800-215-0341. That's 800-215-0341.
Okay, time now for a moment of awe. And with the Winter Olympics fast approaching, it was on this date in 1956 at the Cortina Olympics that the Italian two-man bobsled team of Alberto Della Costa and Giacomo Conti took the gold in the two-man event, as the Italians actually would win gold and silver in the event. The winning time back then, 5 minutes, 30.14 seconds for the gold. By the way, these would be the only medals the Italians, the home country, would take home at these games. And so 70 years later, the game's returning to Italy, and we hope that the home country, the Italians, can win more than just the 2 medals. And that's our moment of awe. Thanks so much to our guests stopping by. We appreciate it. Shane Shoemaker, also Zach Carey. And we always appreciate you. It's a Sports IQ. I'm Larry Smith. For all of us here, have a great Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.